Hello friends, I'm glad you're joining me today. We're going to start the third book in the trilogy, My Father's Dragon. And this third book is called The Dragons of Bluland. So in this book, it starts off with a little summary. So it kind of takes the first two books and quickly tells all about them just in case someone hasn't actually read the first two books. So I'm going to start by reading the summary and then we'll read the first two chapters in The Dragons of Bluland. Here we go. What went before? Once, a baby dragon flew away from home to ride on a cloud. And he fell off into a place called Wild Island, hurting one wing so badly that he could not fly back to his cloud. The fierce wild animals of Wild Island tied him to a rope, and when his wing got well, they made him fly them back and forth across a muddy river. An old alley cat exploring the island saw the miserable dragon. They became good friends, and she promised to help him escape. When she went home, she told Elmer Elevator, a brave boy of 9, all about the dragon. He set off to the rescue and tricked the wild animals, cutting the dragon's rope just as the animals were about to catch him too. He jumped onto the dragon and off they flew. Then Elmer remembered that he had better start back home to Nevergreen City. The dragon offered to fly him, but a terrible storm forced them down over the ocean. Just by luck, they landed on a sandbar near an island, and when they waded ashore, they found that only canaries lived there. Elmer met an old canary friend who introduced them to the Canary King, King Cam the 11th. The king asked if they would dig up an old treasure chest, explaining that he was suffering from the dreadful disease of curiosity and could not get well until he had seen the treasure. Everybody joined in a wonderful celebration, and afterwards Elmer and the dragon flew off to Nevergreen City. The dragon left his good friend on a wharf and started back to his home in a place called Bluland. All right, here we go. Chapter 1. The Hiding Place. Over the harbor, past the lighthouse, and away from Nevergreen City flew the happy baby dragon. "I'm on my way home to the great high mountains of Bluland," he shouted to the evening skies. "At last, I'm off to find my 6 sisters and 7 brothers and my dear, dear gigantic mother and father." He sped northward over the coast of Popsicornia. He flew all night through the dark, scudding clouds toward an awful desert, which surrounded the mountains of Bluland. "I must be careful," he thought to himself, "that nobody sees me on my way, but I'll have to stop and rest somewhere. Where can I hide? I've grown as big as a buffalo, and my blue and yellow stripes and gold-colored wings certainly would attract attention." The darkness faded into morning, and looking down, he saw green meadows, fields of corn, potatoes, and a road wandering past barns and houses. Then he saw a brook zigzagging back and forth across the road. Perhaps I can find a bridge to hide under," thought the dragon. "But I'm going to have to hurry. Soon the farmers will all be up." He swooped and coasted down to a place where the road crossed the brook. Gently he landed and padded down the bank to hide underneath the bridge. But there wasn't any bridge. The road had been built right over the brook. The water flowed under the road through a culvert which was a long round tunnel. And the culvert was too small for a dragon to hide in. "I'll try another crossing," he said to himself, scrambling up the bank and galloping down the road as fast as he could to the next crossing. But here, too, a very small culvert carried the water under the road. Oh dear," he muttered as he galloped down further between a yellow farmhouse and a big yellow barn. Just as he was passing, he heard a rooster scream and the window slam shut in the house. "Where shall I hide? Where shall I hide?" he panted. And then he came to a third crossing, and he tumbled down the bank, and he found another culvert, but a big culvert, big enough for a baby dragon to hide in. He crawled inside, wading through shallow water that cooled his hot, sandy feet. "What if someone in the farmhouse saw me?" he kept thinking as he stretched just far enough to nibble the tasty skunk cabbages and marsh marigolds growing outside the culvert. And then, as he ate and cooled off, he started to feel tired and happy and almost safe, and so he dozed off to sleep in the culvert. Chapter 2. Mr. and Mrs. Wagon Wheel. But someone had seen the dragon. At least he was sure he'd seen something blue and yellow and gold galloping down the road. It was Mr. Wagon Wheel, the farmer who lived in a yellow farmhouse, who had just been closing his window as a dragon ran past. "What was that galloping noise?" asked Mrs. Wagon Wheel, sitting up in bed. "A large blue monster just ran by, and after breakfast I'm going to go find out all about it," yelled Mr. Wagon Wheel, jumping into his clothes and rushing off to put the cows in the barn for a milking. Mrs. Wagon Wheel, meanwhile, made pancakes and coffee, but she forgot to boil the eggs. She was horribly upset at the thought of a monster running past their house at 5 o'clock in the morning. Mr. Wagon Wheel hurried through the milking. He led the cows into the pasture, and then he dashed back to the kitchen. He was anxious to eat and be off after the blue demon, which was what he decided to call whatever it was he saw. He swallowed a pancake whole, and then he banged 2 eggs on the side of his cup, and slop! Raw eggs flew all over the table and all over Mr. Wagon Wheel. Mrs. Wagon Wheel had forgotten to boil those eggs, of course. "Martha, what's the matter with you?" yelled Mr. Wagon Wheel. "Oh, I'm sorry," said poor Mrs. Wagon Wheel. "I'm so upset about a horrible monster. I just don't know what to do with myself." And she nervously slipped a pancake instead of her handkerchief into her apron pocket. "Well, you could start by boiling me more eggs," roared Mr. Wagon Wheel, going to the sink to wash off his face and hands and shirts and overalls. Now Mr. Wagon Wheel liked his eggs hard-boiled, very hard-boiled. And as he waited for them to get very hard-boiled, it began to rain. It was only a drizzly rain, but enough to wash away the dragon's footprints in the dusty road. "Oh, drat that!" thundered Mr. Wagon Wheel, looking out the window. "It's raining." "But I thought we needed rain, dear," said Mrs. Wagon Wheel. "Well, we do, but why can't it wait until I capture the blue demon? Now maybe I'm never going to find him." "Maybe that's just as well," said Mrs. Wagon Wheel, carefully putting a spoonful of salt instead of sugar into her coffee. "Well, I can see you have no spirit of adventure," grunted Mr. Wagon Wheel, peeling his at last ready, very hard-boiled eggs. He picked up his rifle, a strong rope, and put on his raincoat and boots. "I'm off," he yelled, and then he slammed the door. "Oh, he's never going to come back," thought Mrs. Wagon Wheel as she quietly sat down to cry. Mr. Wagon Wheel ran down the road, pouncing on bushes, peering behind trees, and examining roadside ditches, and yelling all the while, "Come in, ready or not!" He made such a racket that the cows heard him in plenty of time. They huddled around the big culvert where the baby dragon was hiding, and they pretended to be busy drinking water. For they had found that sleeping dragon while Mr. Wagon Wheel was eating his very hard-boiled eggs. "Wake up," they had said to the dragon, "and tell us what you are doing in our culvert." The dragon woke up with a start, and then he smiled at those friendly cows. "Why, I'm a baby dragon," he explained, "and I'm on my way home to the great high mountains of Bluland." "But what are you doing in our culvert?" asked a cow. "I'm hiding. You see, most people think that there are no dragons left, and if I should be captured, I'd surely end up in a zoo or a circus, and I'd never get home again." "Shh," said another cow. "I think I hear Mr. Wagon Wheel now. All through milking time, he was saying something about catching the blue demon. He must have been talking about you." It was then that the cows huddled all around the opening of the culvert, and the dragon crouched down on his stomach in the water. "The culvert!" yelled Mr. Wagon Wheel, taking out his rifle. "An excellent hiding place for a blue demon." And then he started down the bank on the other side of the road. "Oh no, it's all over for me now," thought the dragon. He could tell where the farmer was because of all the noise he was making. But just then Mr. Wagon Wheel looked across the road at his very peaceful cows drinking water, and he thought, my cows would be in a panic if that demon was hiding down there." And so then he turned back up the bank, and he ran down the road, beating on the bushes and peering behind all the trees. The cows grazed nearby all day long, talking to the dragon and telling him when it was safe to come out of the culvert. Toward evening, they could hear Mr. Wagon Wheel stomping back along down the road, yelling, "Hoopla! All of y'all now into the barn!" And as they wandered off, they quietly warned the dragon, "You leave just as soon as he goes in the barn. It's just like him to be out looking with a flashlight after supper." And they were right. Long after the dragon had flown far beyond the yellow farmhouse and the culvert, Mr. Wagon Wheel was shooting into the bushes. Mrs. Wagon Wheel was in bed. She had a bad case of the nerves. Well, that's the end of chapter 2. I'm excited to find out what happens tomorrow. The little baby dragon got lucky and didn't get caught by the farmer. But I'm wondering, will he get caught by someone else? What do you think? Well, let me know. And I'll see you back here tomorrow for chapters 3 and 4 of the Dragons of Bluland. Thanks for joining me. Bye.